Welcome back, everyone, to the deep dive. This time, we're going deep into AI and how it's changing the way we think about business strategy.
Sounds fascinating.
I'm really excited about this one. We're diving into a book called Get This, AI, or DISE, Strategy in Chaos.
Oh, wow, that title.
Right. Talk about setting the stage. The book's by Amr Farag.
Okay, I've heard of him.
Yeah, he's got some really thought-provoking ideas about leadership in this crazy world we're living in.
I mean, AI or die, it doesn't get much more direct than that. It kind of makes you sit up and pay attention, right?
Absolutely. And that's exactly what we're going to do in this deep dive. We're going to explore how AI is changing everything for leaders and what you can do to stay ahead of the curve.
Well, I'm all ears.
So let's jump right in. The book kicks off with this idea that the business world is changing faster than ever. It's volatile, uncertain, complex, ambiguous, what Farag calls a VUCA environment.
VUCA, yeah.
And in this kind of environment, he argues that AI isn't just like a nice to have anymore.
Oh, really?
It's becoming absolutely essential for survival.
So it's like adapt or die, literally.
Exactly. But what does that adaptation actually look like? What do leaders need to do differently in a world that's increasingly driven by AI? That's what we're going to unpack.
Okay, so where do we start?
Well, Farag really dives into how AI is going to completely change the future of work as we know it. And, it's not just about robots taking over jobs.
Yeah, that's what everyone thinks about.
Right. It's much more nuanced than that. He talks about humans working alongside AI, what he calls augmentation.
Augmentation, interesting.
Yeah, so instead of feeling AI as a job killer, we should see it as a tool that can actually make us better at our jobs.
Okay, I can see that.
Like imagine, for example, a financial analyst who can leverage AI to analyze tons of data, like huge data sets, way more than a human could handle.
Yeah, I mean, AI can process information at a scale that we can't even comprehend.
Right, exactly. So this analyst, they can now use AI to identify patterns, trends, insights, things that would take a human weeks, maybe even months to uncover.
Wow, that's powerful.
And the result is that they're able to provide much deeper insights. They can make better decisions faster, more effectively, and ultimately become more valuable to their organization.
So it's like AI is giving them superpowers.
Exactly. But that raises the question, what does this mean for someone listening right now? What are those skills, the ones that are really going to be valuable in this future where AI is augmenting everything we do?
Good question.
Well, Farag talks about the need for what he calls fusion skills.
Fusion skill.
It's kind of a cool name, right? And it basically means a blend of technical skills and those things we've always called soft skills.
Okay, so a mix of both.
Yeah. So on the technical side, think data analysis, understanding algorithms, maybe even some basic coding. But then those human skills, the critical thinking, the problem solving, the emotional intelligence, those become even more important in an AI-driven world.
Because AI can handle the data crunching, but not the human stuff.
Exactly. It's not just about crunching numbers. It's about understanding the context, the nuances, the big picture, the human element that AI can't quite grasp yet.
Okay, I see. So it's about finding that balance between the technical and the human.
That's the key. And it actually leads us to another super important concept Farag emphasizes. Core competencies.
Remind me what those are again.
It's those unique strengths that set your organization apart from the competition. What do you do exceptionally well? What makes you different?
Got it. Like if you're a company, what's your superpower?
Exactly. And the classic example is Amazon. They've always been amazing at logistics and supply chain management.
Oh, yeah, for sure. Their delivery is incredible.
And they've used AI to take what they were already good at and make it even better. Like they've become the gold standard for fast, efficient delivery.
I mean, who doesn't love getting a package the next day?
Right. And what's so intriguing is that Farag suggests AI can be used to amplify any core competency, not just logistics, but anything. So think about your organization. What makes you unique? What are you really good at?
Okay.
Could AI help you do it even better, faster, more efficiently? That's where the real power of AI lies. Not in replacing what you do, but in making you even better at it.
That makes a lot of sense.
But in this world that's changing so fast, how do you even know what to focus on? How do you create a strategy when the landscape keeps shifting?
Good point. It's like trying to hit a moving target, right?
It is. And that's where Farag's emphasis on vision, mission, and purpose comes in.
Okay, so those big picture ideas.
Exactly. These aren't just empty words on a website. They're your guiding principles. They're like a North Star, helping you navigate in all this uncertainty and change.
It's like having a compass, even when the map keeps changing.
Exactly. And he uses Google as a great example. Their vision to organize the world's information and make it universally accessible and useful has guided them through so much change over the years.
Wow, I never really thought about it that way.
It's amazing, right? They've expanded into so many different areas. But that core vision has remained constant. So it's just like Google, your organization needs a strong sense of purpose. Something that can guide your actions, even when everything else feels chaotic.
I'm starting to see the connection here. So it's like your mission is the why and AI is the how.
You got it. AI is a powerful tool, but it needs to be guided by a clear sense of purpose. Otherwise, you're just chasing shiny objects.
Yeah, that's a good way to put it. But there's got to be more to it than that, right?
Oh, absolutely. There's one more piece of the puzzle that's super critical: culture.
Culture, okay.
Farag argues that in an AI-driven world, building a culture that's resilient, adaptable, innovative, that's just as important as the technology itself. Actually, he compares culture to the operating system of an organization.
The operating system.
Well, yeah.
Interesting analogy.
Think about it. If the operating system is clunky, outdated, buggy, even the most brilliant software won't run effectively.
Okay, yeah, that makes sense. So what kind of operating system do you need for an AI-powered world?
One that's designed for speed, flexibility, and constant learning. Think of Netflix. Their culture is all about freedom and responsibility. They trust their employees to make decisions and move quickly. And it's allowed them to constantly innovate, stay ahead of the curve in the streaming world.
Wow, they've definitely changed the game.
Right. They've been able to pivot and adapt so effectively because their culture supports that. So if you're thinking about building a future-proof organization, it's not just about implementing AI, it's about creating a culture that can really leverage it. A culture that embraces change, encourages experimentation, and views failure as a learning opportunity.
It's about creating an environment where people can thrive in this new world, right?
Exactly. And that's actually a great segue into what we're going to explore in the next part of this deep dive.
Yeah, because if the people aren't on board, the technology isn't going to do much good.
It's so true, but it all comes back to this idea of building an organization that's not just resilient, but actually thrives on change, like almost welcomes it.
That's a great way to put it. I think Farag actually uses the word anti-fragile. Not just able to withstand shocks, but actually getting stronger because of them.
Oh, I like that. Anti-fragile.
Yeah. And one way to build that kind of anti-fragility is by using AI for, get this, strategic foresight.
Strategic foresight sounds kind of like fortune telling.
A little bit, but it's more about using AI to analyze massive amounts of data, looking for those patterns that humans might miss, and helping us anticipate what's coming down the road.
So like using data to predict the future.
Exactly. It's not a perfect crystal ball, but it can definitely give you a better sense of what might be coming.
I remember reading about Unilever using AI to understand consumer behavior, like trying to figure out what people will want before they even know it themselves.
Oh, wow, that's next level.
Right. And it's not just about consumer goods either. Think about Shell, the big energy company. They're using AI to navigate the energy market, which is crazy volatile right now, right?
Oh, absolutely.
So they're using AI to model different future scenarios, play out different possibilities.
So they can figure out what might happen and be prepared.
Exactly. Identify potential opportunities and threats. It's helping them make strategic decisions in an industry that's facing massive disruption.
That's incredible. But it all sounds pretty high level, kind of complex.
Yeah.
How does this actually translate into something that leaders can do, like today?
That's a great question. And this is where Farag brings it back to those core competencies we were talking about earlier.
Oh, right.
So it's not about AI replacing what you do well, but finding those strategic intersections where AI can supercharge what you're already good at.
Right, like using AI to amplify your superpowers.
Exactly. Like Google, their core competency is search, right? Information retrieval, data processing, all of that. And they've used AI to dominate in those areas. Google Search, Google Maps, Google Assistant, they're all powered by AI, and they're constantly learning and getting better.
Makes sense.
And of course, Amazon's another perfect example. They were already masters of logistics and supply chain management, but they've used AI to take it to a whole new level, set the standard for the entire retail industry.
So it's all about leveraging AI to become even better at what you're already good at.
Exactly. So if you're a leader, you need to ask yourself, what are our core competencies? What are we uniquely good at? And how can AI help us to amplify those strengths and become even more dominant?
It's a great question to be asking.
It is. But, another thing that's super important in this AI-driven world is building what Farag calls a learning organization.
A learning organization.
Yeah, creating a culture where people are constantly learning, experimenting, growing, because the skills that are needed to thrive in this environment, they're evolving so quickly.
Like what we need to know today might be totally different tomorrow.
It's true. Farag talks about the need for a growth mindset, where failure is just seen as a learning opportunity, and building a culture where everyone is constantly sharing knowledge and learning from each other.
So how does AI fit into that?
Well, this is where it gets really interesting. Farag argues that AI can actually help us build these learning organizations.
Right, how so?
For example, AI can identify skill gaps within a company. Like, what skills are we missing? What do our employees need to learn to stay competitive?
Okay, that makes sense.
And then AI can even suggest personalized learning paths for employees, recommend specific training programs that are tailored to their individual needs.
So it's like AI is becoming a coach, helping people learn and grow.
I love that. A learning coach powered by AI. And that connects to another really fascinating point Farag makes about AI and talent. He argues that AI has the potential to revolutionize how we assess, develop, and align talent within organizations.
Interesting.
Like, he gives this example of IBM's Talent Transformation Initiative. They're using AI to evaluate employee skills, identify gaps, and recommend these personalized learning programs to help bridge those gaps.
It sounds really proactive, like they're trying to stay ahead of the curve and make sure their employees are ready for whatever's coming next.
Exactly. And it's not just about filling skill gaps. AI can help us understand our workforce better, identify hidden potential, create data-driven succession plans.
Wow, so AI is like this strategic partner in talent management, helping us build a workforce that's prepared for the future.
Absolutely. But, with all this change, all this disruption, it can feel kind of overwhelming.
Yeah, for sure.
Like, how do you create stability and a sense of direction when the ground is constantly shifting beneath your feet?
Right. Like, where do you even start?
Well, that's where Farag circles back to the importance of vision and mission. In a VUCA environment, having that clear sense of purpose, that North Star, it's more crucial than ever.
Okay.
He talks about creating a vision that's forward-looking but also flexible, adaptable to change without losing its core essence.
It's like you need a vision that can guide you through the storm, but also be flexible enough to adjust to the changing winds.
Exactly. Like Google's vision to organize the world's information. It's guided them through so many changes and expansions over the years because it's focused on a core idea that's timeless.
That makes sense. So even as technology changes and new opportunities emerge, they can always come back to that core purpose.
Exactly. Or Tesla's mission to accelerate the world's transition to sustainable energy. It's such a powerful statement, and it drives everything they do, from their cars to their solar panels.
So it's not just about having a vision and mission statement, it's about really bringing it to life, making it part of the organization's DNA.
Exactly. Communicating it clearly, embedding it into the culture. It's about purpose-driven leadership.
So leaders need to walk the talk.
They need to embody the values, make decisions that align with the mission, and create a culture where everyone feels connected to that shared purpose.
It's inspiring.
And it's about having a mission that can support both stability and agility. That's a tough balance to strike.
For sure.
He mentions LinkedIn's mission to connect the world's professionals and IKEA's to create a better everyday life for the many people.
Oh yeah, those are good ones.
They're broad enough to encompass lots of different activities, but still stay true to the core values of the organization. So as a leader, you need to ask yourself, does our vision and mission actually inspire us? Do they guide our actions? Do they give us that sense of stability in this constantly changing world?
Because if they don't, you're kind of adrift.
Right, exactly. And Farag actually quotes Simon Sinek here, who said, people don't buy what you do, they buy why you do it. It's about connecting with people on an emotional level, inspiring them, showing them that your organization stands for something more than just making a profit.
Okay, I love that. So purpose is key. But how do we actually turn all this big picture thinking into, like, concrete action?
That's where we get into strategic thinking, planning, and management.
Okay, so the more practical side of things.
Right. These are things every leader has to grapple with, but they become even more important in a VUCA environment.
Because how do you plan for the future when the future is so unpredictable?
Exactly. And Frog emphasizes that leaders need to develop strong strategic thinking skills. The ability to anticipate change, identify opportunities, adapt to shifting conditions, see the big picture, and understand how everything's interconnected.
So it's about being proactive, not reactive, shaping the future instead of just responding to it.
Exactly. I love that quote from Peter Drucker. The best way to predict the future is to create it.
That's so true.
And Farag talks about scenario planning, which is considering different possible futures and developing strategies to address each one.
So playing out different what-if scenarios.
Right. Being prepared for different possibilities, even those that seem unlikely. He uses Shell as an example. They've been doing scenario planning since the 70s.
Really?
And they were actually able to anticipate major events like oil crises and those big shifts in the energy market. That foresight has allowed them to stay ahead of the curve.
That's impressive.
It is. So scenario planning is a really powerful tool, especially in this VUCA world. It forces you to think outside the box, step out of your current reality and consider a broader range of possibilities.
I can see how that would be valuable.
But once you've explored those different possibilities, you need to translate that big picture thinking into a concrete plan.
Right, an actual plan of action.
Exactly. And that's where strategic planning comes in. But as Farag points out, strategic planning in a VUCA world has to be flexible.
Flexible.
Yeah, like those rigid 5-year plans, they just don't cut it anymore. The landscape is changing too quickly for that.
Makes sense. So how do you plan when everything is so unpredictable?
It's about finding that balance. You set objectives, timelines, those key performance indicators, KPIs, but you have to be able to adjust those plans based on new data, new information, new challenges.
So it's like having a roadmap, but being willing to detour if you need to.
That's a great way to put it. Farag uses Tesla as an example. They have this incredibly ambitious vision, but they're also really good at adapting and pivoting as they go.
So it's not about having the perfect plan. It's about having a plan that can evolve.
Exactly. And once you have that plan, it's time to put it into action. That's strategic management.
Okay. And what does that look like in this kind of environment?
Well, one of the things Farag really stresses is making sure everyone in the organization understands the strategy and is aligned with those goals. From the top executives all the way down to the frontline employees.
Right. Everyone needs to be on the same page, rowing in the same direction.
Exactly. He quotes the former IBM CEO, Lou Gerstner, who said, "It's not about the plan, it's about the people who carry it out."
That's a good one.
So Farag talks about clear communication, effective leadership, creating a culture that supports the strategy.
And making sure everyone understands their role in making it happen.
Absolutely. And then you need to monitor progress, make adjustments as needed, and create a feedback loop. So what you learn from actually doing the work informs your future strategy.
It's all about continuous learning and improvement.
It is. Strategic management isn't just a one-time thing. It's an ongoing process. And that brings us to another crucial aspect of leadership: decision-making.
Oh, yeah, that's a big one, especially in a VUCA environment where things can change so quickly.
Exactly. Farag talks about how leaders often need to make decisions fast and sometimes with incomplete information.
That's a tough spot to be in.
It is. And he talks about the art and science of decision-making, how leaders need to balance data and analysis with intuition and experience.
Because the numbers don't always tell the whole story.
Right. Sometimes you have to trust your gut. Even Jeff Bezos, who's known for being super data-driven, has said that all his best decisions have been made with his heart, his intuition, his guts, not just analysis.
Interesting. So it's about finding that balance using both your head and your heart.
Exactly. And Farag suggests using what's called a decision matrix. It's a tool that helps you weigh different factors based on their relevance and impact.
So it helps you break down a complex decision and consider all the angles.
Right. It brings some structure to the process, which can be really helpful when you're feeling overwhelmed.
I can see how that would be useful.
And of course, we can't talk about decision making without talking about AI. Farag dedicates a whole section to how AI can support decision-making.
Oh yeah, AI is really good at analyzing data and identifying patterns.
Exactly. It can provide real-time insights, automate a lot of the data collection and analysis, and even help you see things you might have missed.
Okay, so give me an example.
Well, Procter & Gamble, the consumer goods giant, they use AI to analyze data from like social media, point of sale systems, all sorts of sources to try to understand what their customers are thinking and feeling.
Oh, wow.
And they use those insights to make adjustments to their marketing, their production, their inventory, everything.
Yeah. So they can stay ahead of the trends and give their customers what they want.
Exactly. And AI is also really good at supporting scenario analysis.
The what-if scenarios we were talking about earlier.
Right. So companies like Google are using AI to run simulations and see what might happen if they make different choices.
So they can kind of test out different approaches before they actually commit to anything.
Exactly. Like Google uses it to test different ad placement strategies.
Okay.
They can run simulations and see which approach is likely to be most effective before they actually roll it out to the public.
That's pretty amazing.
It is. AI is changing the game when it comes to decision-making, giving leaders more information, more insights, and more tools to make better decisions faster. It's mind-blowing, really. But all that data, all those fancy AI tools, it doesn't mean much if you can't actually execute your strategy.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
A great strategy is worthless if you can't put it into action. And that's why Farag spends a lot of time talking about agility.
Agility. Okay.
He argues that in this fast-paced, unpredictable world, agility isn't just a nice bonus anymore. It's absolutely essential.
I can see that.
Like he says, those traditional long-term plans, where you map everything out for 5 years, those just don't work anymore.
Yeah, things change way too fast.
Exactly. You need to be able to adapt and adjust your plans on the fly based on what's happening in the real world.
So how do you do that? How do you build that kind of agility into an organization?
Well, he uses Spotify as an example.
Yeah.
They've really embraced this agile approach.
Spotify, the music streaming company.
Yeah. They have this really unique organizational structure that allows them to respond to change almost instantly.
How so?
They created these autonomous cross-functional teams that they call squads.
Squads.
Yeah. And these squads have the freedom and flexibility to make decisions quickly without layers of bureaucracy.
So it's like a decentralized approach, giving more power to the teams on the ground.
Exactly. And it's been incredibly successful for them. They've been able to stay super competitive in an industry that's like constantly changing.
That's pretty impressive.
It is. And Frog actually outlines 4 key principles of what he calls agile strategy, which I think are really helpful.
Okay, I'm listening.
First, it all starts with people. Empowering your teams, giving them autonomy, fostering a culture of accountability and innovation.
Makes sense. If you trust your people and give them the freedom to make decisions, they're going to be more engaged, right?
Exactly. And they're more likely to come up with those creative solutions that you need to stay ahead of the game.
Okay, so that's principle number 1. What's number 2?
Iterative progress.
Yeah.
It's about making small, incremental improvements over time, rather than trying to do everything at once.
So it's like the fail fast, learn fast approach.
That's it. You test ideas, you get feedback, and you constantly refine your approach based on what you're learning.
Okay, I like that. What's principle number 3?
Real-time feedback. You need to be constantly gathering data, analyzing it, and using those insights to inform your decisions.
Like Netflix does with their viewer data, right? They're always analyzing what people are watching, and they use that data to decide what content to create next.
Exactly. They're a great example of a company that's super data-driven.
Okay, so we've got people, iterative progress, real-time feedback. What's the 4th principle?
Rapid response. Being able to react quickly to change, whether it's a shift in the market, a new competitor, or, even a global pandemic.
The pandemic was a real test of agility for a lot of companies, wasn't it?
It definitely was. The companies that were able to quickly adapt their operations, their supply chains, their products, those are the ones that thrived.
Think about Zoom. They went from being this niche video conferencing tool to a household name almost overnight.
That's true. And that's because they were able to scale up so quickly to meet that huge surge in demand.
It's a perfect example of how rapid response can be a real strategic advantage in a world that's, full of surprises.
Absolutely. And of course, you can't talk about agility without talking about leadership.
Yeah. Leaders set the tone, right?
They do. Farag talks about agile leadership, which is all about creating a culture that embraces change, empowers teams, and encourages innovation.
What kind of qualities does an agile leader need to have?
He highlights adaptability, empathy, resilience, vision. Those leaders who can see the big picture, but are also able to adjust their course when needed.
It sounds like a pretty demanding job.
It is. He gives the example of Shantanu Narayan, the CEO of Adobe.
Okay, yeah.
He led Adobe through this massive transformation, shifting from selling software licenses to a subscription model. It was a huge change, and it required a leader who could embrace agility and empower his team to innovate.
So the right leadership is essential for creating an agile organization.
Absolutely. And of course, no conversation about agility would be complete without talking about AI. Frog even dedicates a whole section to how AI can enhance agile project management.
Interesting. So AI can help with, like, running those squads we talked about.
It can. It's about using AI to automate tasks, analyze data, provide those real-time insights, and ultimately help teams make better decisions faster.
So give me some examples. How is AI actually being used in agile project management today?
Well, Farag talks about how AI can be used for things like project planning, resource allocation, risk management, performance monitoring, and all the things that project managers have to juggle.
So it's like AI is becoming this super-powered assistant for project managers.
That's a great way to put it. He gives examples like Tesla using AI to optimize their supply chain and adjust production plans in real time.
Oh, wow.
It's fascinating to see how AI is bringing more efficiency and agility to project management. And, we're really just at the beginning. As AI continues to evolve, its impact on how we work and manage projects is only going to grow.
So it sounds like AI is a pretty important tool for any leader who's serious about embracing agility.
It really is. He even quotes Satya Nadella, the CEO of Microsoft, who said, "AI is perhaps the most transformative technology of our time, amplifying human ingenuity with intelligent tools." It's not about replacing humans, it's about empowering them.
I like that. But let's shift gears a bit and talk about how we measure success in this new world. Because those old metrics like profit and revenue, they don't always tell the whole story anymore, do they?
That's a great point. Farag argues that we need to look beyond those traditional financial results and consider a wider range of metrics that reflect agility, customer satisfaction, innovation, and even things like environmental and social impact.
Okay, so more holistic view of success.
Exactly. He talks about defining KPIs, key performance indicators that are aligned with these new goals. Things like customer lifetime value, employee engagement, innovation rate, time to market, how quickly you can get a new product or service out there.
It's about measuring what really matters in this new world.
Right. And he emphasizes having those real-time dashboards so leaders can get immediate feedback on how they're doing and make those quick adjustments as needed.
Because speed is everything in this kind of environment.
It really is. And of course, he talks about the role of AI in performance management, how it can track progress, identify trends, and offer insights that help leaders make better decisions.
So AI can help us measure those new metrics more effectively.
Exactly. Like Starbucks, for example. They use AI to analyze their customer data, identify seasonal trends, and optimize inventory levels at their stores.
So they're using AI to make sure they have the right products in the right place at the right time.
Exactly. And they're using it to improve their operational efficiency and ultimately make their customers happier.
Makes sense. But even with all these fancy metrics and AI tools, it's important to remember that some things are harder to quantify, right?
Oh, absolutely.
Like brand reputation, employee morale, the impact you're having on the environment and society.
Those things are still important.
They are. Farag talks about how companies like Google actually track employee morale. How happy and engaged their employees are, because they know that happy employees are more productive, more innovative, and ultimately that leads to better financial results.
It's a good reminder that true success is multidimensional. It's not just about the bottom line. It's about creating a healthy, sustainable organization that benefits everyone.
That's a great way to put it. And finally, Farag talks about the importance of future-proofing, being proactive and anticipating those disruptions and challenges that are inevitably coming down the road.
Right, because the only constant is change.
Exactly. So he talks about anticipating trends, building resilience into your organization, managing risk, and using scenario planning to prepare for different possible futures.
It's like having a plan A, B, and C.
Exactly.
Yeah.
He brings up the example of Toyota, which was able to recover so quickly from that devastating earthquake and tsunami in Japan back in 2011.
Oh.
And the reason they were able to bounce back so quickly is because they had such a resilient supply chain. They had already thought about the possibility of a natural disaster and had plans in place.
So they were prepared for the unexpected.
They were, and that made all the difference. So navigating the future in this AI-driven world is all about embracing change, being proactive, and using all these tools and frameworks that Farag talks about to build organizations that are more resilient, adaptable, and, future-proof.
And ultimately creating a better future for everyone.
I love that. And I think that's actually a perfect place to wrap up our deep dive into AI or DAI Strategy and Chaos.
It's been a fascinating conversation.
It really has, and I think Farag ends the book on such a powerful note. He says, the best way to predict the future is to create it.
That's so true. It's a call to action for all of us.
It is, to be bold, to innovate, to use AI and all these other tools we've been talking about to create the world we want to live in. So to everyone listening, keep those thinking caps on. Keep exploring, keep experimenting, because the future is waiting to be created.